Greetings and welcome to the channel. This is Mikhailov from Team Retro, where we like retro games and the devices that bring them to us. Now, it's been a while since I've taken a look at the ASUS ROG Ally X on this channel, and I was fortunate enough to receive this Ally X review unit direct from ASUS. Special thanks to them for sending this out. I sold my Ally X back in January because I needed the money to recover from Christmas and CES, so you can imagine how grateful I was to receive this unit because the ROG Ally X is still one of the best x86 handhelds out there at time of recording. I have about 9 x86 handhelds, which is admittedly overkill and pretty unnecessary. I have a problem. But you don't need to be like me. You only need one handheld, and the ROG Ally X might indeed be that handheld for you. So in this video, we're going to go over some of the best ways to optimize this device, and some neat things you can do with it that may just make it the end-all and be-all handheld for you. So let's dive in and get to work. Now, I did a review on the ROG Ally X a while back when it released, and I'll leave a link in the video description if you want to get a handle on the specs as well as how this device performs. If this is your first time researching the ROG Ally X, definitely check out that review first, and then come back here and consider this video a continuation or a follow-up. Having said that, let's look at my usual things that I do with this device. I decided to keep Windows on this handheld mostly because of AMD Adrenaline's native upscaling ability. Using quick settings in Armory Crate, I locked the device to display at a 900p resolution and turned on AMD Super Resolution in Adrenaline. And so far, mostly every Steam game I have launched has automatically upscaled to 1080p, so I can still have good picture quality with increased frame times and battery efficiency, which is important considering the 120Hz screen and the 80Wh battery in this device. It's a simple adjustment, but I've overall been very happy with it. Because I've decided to stick with Windows instead of a Linux-based OS like SteamOS, I looked into some various front ends that could make the experience a little controller-friendly. In my review, I mentioned that Armory Crate was kind of janky, and we'll go back to that in a bit. But for now, let's take a look at some of the other alternatives. One is to simply launch Steam in big picture mode, which will ultimately give you a decent SteamOS-like experience, and you could go into controller settings in Armory Crate and map the Xbox button to a combo of one of the back buttons and a face button. So I mapped that Xbox button to hold M2 and press Y. I also mapped M1 to pull up the digital Windows keyboard, which I was able to set into a new gamepad mode. This is a feature coming to Windows 11 very soon, but it can be accessed now if you participate in the Windows Early Preview program. This is great for docked mode as well as not needing to use the touchscreen. And I imagine Steam Big Picture mode will be best for most, but if you are more retro game oriented, you might be more interested in something like Play Night because you could set up a themed front end that allows you to bounce between your PC library as well as your retro game library. Play Night also works well with EmuDeck, so if you have that set up, you can easily jump into your games with your EmuDeck settings all ready to go. There's also a new front end called Winhanced currently in early access, which you could download from the Epic Games Store. This is another front end that aims to unify your Windows experience to be more controller friendly. I ended up trying both Play Night and Winhanced on the ROG Ally X, and while I had Play Night up and running with no problem, something happened once I installed Winhanced, and it actually corrupted my Windows install, forcing me to reset the device and losing my installed programs. Thankfully, it didn't take me long to get up and running again, a little bit under a day, but I never got around to reinstalling Play Night before filming for this video. But that's okay because for my use case, I just stuck with Armory Crate. I like having a dedicated button to open the front end on the device itself, and I was able to add ESDE as a shortcut. It's just simple and effective for me. I set up Steam to launch in the background upon boot, and set Armory Crate to do the same. Then, if I want to play a PC game, I could boot into Steam straight from Armory Crate. And for emulation, I just boot ESDE. I found the majority of the jank that Armory Crate had upon release has been pretty much fixed, and there's just enough utility here that I'm comfortable using ASUS's front end exclusively. Now, as far as accessories go for the Ally X, I have a 1TB micro SD card to complement the 1TB hard drive this device comes equipped with. I also ordered a JSAW mod case off of Amazon. I did originally have a D-brand kill switch, but something felt off about that case. I didn't like the feel of the plastic that D-brand used, and the texture was just a little too weird. However, this mod case has a built-in kickstand, and it has a grippy plastic that feels really nice and complements the already great ergonomics on the Ally X. There really aren't any other accessories that are necessary unless you want to get a USB docking station. Asus recommends the official charging dock, but I've had great luck with this Ugreen dock. I only spent about $20 on it, and when paired with the Asus charger, you still get the 30-watt turbo speeds when this is plugged in and in docked mode. I use this exact combination to plug my Ally X and my TV in the living room, and I combined it with a Switch Hori Taiko drum controller. And in this way, I was able to introduce my son to Taiko no Tatsujin. We're still working on rhythm and timing, but he's only 4. He'll get there. So let's pivot over to some more gameplay. Because the Ally X has a 7-inch screen with a 120Hz refresh rate, we can take advantage of black frame insertion when playing older games, which means you're going to get a slightly darker but much smoother gameplay experience. The one thing I would advise when using black frame insertion, however, is don't let the game idle. You could end up with some image retention on the screen that will go away in time, but it is still something to keep in mind. As long as you're actively playing the game that you have black frame insertion on, you should be fine. For a good chunk of my retro gaming on these x86 devices, however, I actually have been looking into some of the collections available on Steam. I like owning these collections because in addition to avoiding piracy as much as possible in our space, these collections generally have concept art or other unlockables as well as Steam achievements. What I end up doing is I pick up these collections when they're on sale, and then I just don't include them in my ROM libraries because I'll play them through the collection instead. For example, the Capcom Arcade Stadium games is an a la carte arcade game collection, and I ended up just buying the whole thing in one DLC package when it was on sale one time. These games also have custom bezels, and you can even change how the arcade cabinets look. I don't do a lot of arcade emulation through RetroArch, and something like this is just much easier for me to play arcade games on. The same goes for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga collection, which allows me to play the arcade versions without having to futz with the various MAME and arcade cores in RetroArch. I can run all these games at a low TDP, meaning that the battery won't take a beating, and this handheld is one out of 2 handhelds that exist that have a battery this large, the other being the MSI Claw 8 AI+. Now, if you're a Final Fantasy XIV fan like me, you could definitely play using the game's built-in controller setup. I play this game at 900p with AMD Super Resolution upscaling to 1080p, and I stick to the 17-watt performance mode so I can let the game breathe and run a little bit smoother. Plus, I don't worry about battery life on this device, as I can usually go at least 3 hours of continuous play before reaching for a charger, which is pretty much the max I can play this game in one sitting anyway. I would say the vast majority of your Steam, Xbox, or GOG library will play on this device without having to go beyond performance mode, and you'll generally only need the 25-watt turbo mode when plugged in, which jumps to a 30-watt TDP when using a supported charger. And then let's end this video with something a little different. I decided to try BlueStacks to emulate Android gaming. It's a little finicky and sometimes requires some manual keypad mapping, but it is possible to run games from the Play Store utilizing BlueStacks. It's little things like this that make x86 handhelds like the ROG Ally X flexible enough to be someone's singular handheld, unless you're nuts like me. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Is the ROG Ally X the device for you, or is there another x86 handheld that has captured your love instead? And please feel free to continue the conversation on the Retro Handhelds Discord, where you can find me hanging out in between videos. And if you want to support the channel like these wonderful people on the screen, you can do so by going to my Patreon page. Links for all these places are in the description. But that'll do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and please be sure to like and subscribe if this was helpful to you in any way. Every smash of that button helps the channel grow and allows me to get more content out to you. But until next time, bye for now, and don't stop believing.